Would you put new money to work in this market then today, or you're worried about the uncertainty? Because the backdrop seems strong. The Wall Street Journal out this morning, one of the top stories on economic growth. The Journal's forecast pointing to 3% growth this year, up from 2.4% last year. Now, while the estimates go lower in the coming years, this backdrop in terms of economic growth and earnings is pretty strong. Would that lead you to put new money to work in stocks or not?
It does, Maria, but maybe not today. And by that, I don't want to sound sheepish, but what I am waiting for and what we've been telling our clients is we have, some cash on the sidelines and new cash comes in. We're waiting for market dislocation events. We're waiting for events like we saw with Facebook or Netflix earnings where the stocks absolutely get smoked off of results that I feel like were an overreaction. And similarly so, if we may be seeing some bleed out from the latest Turkish news. If this lasts for a couple more days, we see a drawdown in the S&P of a few percent. I would wait for these events to allow you to, say, unlock the door and get into the markets, because I agree with you. The long-term earnings scenario is very good. The long-term economic backdrop is very good, but you don't have to rush into these markets because some of these opportunities, as we've seen over the course of the last several months, do pop up.
Yeah, Scott, I want to just interject on that because some of the economic numbers, the leading ones I look at, especially the new orders index last week came out, and it was just showing that companies are doing capital investment into their own business. So it may affect the margins for them going forward next year. But listen, if we look at 90% of the companies that have already reported earnings this quarter, 24% earnings growth, 90% of them beat. It's been an unbelievable earnings season. I don't understand how you can't just look at stocks and think over the long term, these companies that are now reinvesting in their own businesses, doing stock buybacks, increasing dividends are the place to be. My concern is actually on the fixed income side of the ledger, right? Why would you put money to work into bonds, right? As we start to see rates rise, it's a place of concern for me that people are going to be relying on the crux of a fixed income when those bonds are going to be selling off. What do you think about the fixed income markets right here?
It's a tough call. I do think what's good is I feel like bond prices, as far as, them getting depressed as interest rates rise, bond prices go down. That's probably over in the sense of I don't think bond prices are going to go much of anywhere at this moment. They're gonna trade within a range. So that means you can get away with getting some yield. Now, it's not great, right? The 10-year note is going to pay you about 3%. But the reality is, Kevin, to your point, as we construct portfolios at Kingsview, I think the similar thing could be said about gold, for example. We were long-term holders of gold over the last several years, and we've slowly reduced that because, to your point, those have not provided the shock absorption, say, or the dampening of the volatility like bonds have as well, similarly so over the years or over the last several months, because bonds have been volatile too. So you're right. I think given the risk reward and given that profile and the fact that you have so much potential to grow with some of those companies you mentioned, that seems to be where your favorable, if I dare say, Sharpe ratio is out there for the average investor.
What's your take on valuations in tech? You look at where Apple is now, since hitting the $1 trillion market value. You say this is the time to buy it at these levels. And what about Tesla?
Apple, I still would buy, Maria. Again, wait for maybe just a little bit of a pullback here because the fervor has been crazy since Apple went to $1 trillion. So I'd let that, I'd pull that off the stove and let that cool for a bit. I know Kevin loves to cook, so he probably understands that one. He's a very good cook. But Tesla, I would worry, though, too, about Tesla, Maria, because, gosh, Elon Musk seems to be drawing a very big target on his back from his friends at the SEC.
All right, we will leave it there. Scott, good to see you. Have a great day. Scott Martin.